I was one of the sceptics, Laura. I didn't think it was quite possible. That was even before the boneheadedness of 3 players in recent times. And then, of course, you've got the Queensland government, you've got the New Zealand government, now the Victorian government telling the Storm they've got to go across the border if they wish to train. So it's quite a remarkable thing. But V'landys got a history of doing this type of thing in racing. No one thought he could pull the Everest off, the Golden Eagle off, and rival the carnivals in Melbourne. He's done that. He's done this as well. He certainly is a very, very capital administrator to think that the game's going to restart the day with training after those instructions they'll receive from the medical experts. And then, of course, May 28th, she's back on again. It's quite remarkable.
I think so too. And look, I was with you as one of the sceptics because a lot of things had to fall in line. But obviously, Peter V'landys is a much better chess player than I. And not only has he been able to get the NRL back on track, what we haven't seen in the NRL in recent years, and perhaps you'll agree with me here, is that the AFL seems to dominate even the public relations battle off-season, in a good way, I should say. And look, Peter V'landys has kept the whole conversation on the NRL for months and months now. That's got to be good for the game.
Well, I think they might despise him in Victoria because, first of all, he's done what he's done with racing. And now the AFL are marking time. And there are people in Victoria who say, well, hang on, if he can do this, why can't we do it? And he's stolen a march on them. And, I mean, he's not the pin-up boy in Victoria, I can tell you, either with racing or now AFL fans. He's made a few more enemies through all of this. I've been working with him, and he was my boss, actually, when I was calling harness racing back in the 1980s and 1990s at Harold Park. He was a very young man then, came unheralded, but I could see from the early part of his career, and I was very early in my career too, that he was a bloke that got things done. He was always able to work with committees. And back in the 1980s, working with a committee at Harold Park Trotting Club was very difficult because they were pretty staid in their presentation, and he did some remarkable things. Then, of course, he went to Racing New South Wales. He's done even more remarkable things there. But I, in private conversation, said to him, mate, you're stark raving mad. You won't get back on May 28th. And he said, well, you wait and see what happens. And then, as I said, he had to convince, the Home Affairs Minister, Peter Dutton, was sceptical. The Prime Minister, as a rugby league fan, was sceptical. Anastasia Palaszczuk, until late last week, said, no, they're not coming south and you're not coming here. Then the New Zealand government, I mean, he must be well connected over there because all of a sudden he's got, them on board, and they arrived in Tamworth over the weekend, and they'll start after their meetings this morning, training as well. They're sitting at single tables inside West Tamworth Leagues Club, all the players, one bloke per table. And so, I mean, that's got things moving in Tamworth. The club's been closed forever, as all other clubs and pubs across the country are. So now all of a sudden there's work for people up there as well. So it is unbelievable. We still are on a precipice. Just one positive could throw this all into disarray. But I thought even last week when we had the drama with Latrell Mitchell and Josh Adokar, that, probably that would be the end of it because the authorities would say, well, hang on, you can't get these blokes to behave themselves. How are you going to get the other 400 to behave themselves? But he has convinced people that, they'll be dealt with in the future in far more formidable way than these two blokes, and Cleary being the third, were dealt with last week. So, yeah, all systems go. Rugby league back on May 28, giving people something to watch on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And the remarkable thing, the only other sport you've been able to watch up until now is racing. Who's in charge of that? Peter V'landys. So he's got the Quinella, got both going.
Yep, certainly does. Look, I had a few wins at the weekend as well. A ray of sunshine, shot of Irish and Yonkers. I should have given everyone my tips before the weekend, but I don't get to the full gun on a Saturday morning, sadly, until the Saturday morning. Now, before I let you go, I must say I heard you referring to perhaps Peter V'landys thinking that Racing New South Wales are full of Mensa candidates before he had to deal with some footballers behaving badly last week. So let's hope that everyone can play by the rules to get NRL up and running. But got to ask you about John Barilaro. Were you surprised this morning? There's been a lot of manoeuvring over the weekend. And as they say in politics, you've got to watch those people that are on your own team rather than the opposition sometimes. This might be a case of that.
I think someone tugged his coat over the weekend. Look, no, I'm not surprised. I'm absolutely astounded. Firstly, I'm astounded that John withdrew his possible nomination to run for the Nationals. And I thought he was a pretty good chance based on polling of winning, obviously. Although he had to create history, I think in by-elections, no one in government has won it in a by-election over 100 years, they tell me. The more surprising aspect is Andrew Constance emerging. Now, it was only on March 10 that Andrew Constance, a very emotional Andrew Constance, said, that's it for me. As soon as I've done with this fire-ravaged area, I'm retiring from politics. All of a sudden, he's like Lazarus. He's arisen and he's back not just as a possible candidate in a pre-selection battle. I heard what you said about Jim Mullen and surgery, so it looks like it'll be a one-person pre-selection battle involving Andrew Constance. He'll probably win. And having said on March 10th, that's it for me for politics, he could well become the federal member for Eden-Monaro, leading his pathway into federal politics. So they say a week's a long time in politics, a day's a long time in politics at the moment. Strange things are happening, but Barilaro is a pretty good bloke. He's a good operator. But I think at the end of the day, he's a realist, and he probably thought, I really don't want to take this on, and there's all the machinations about whether I'll be the next federal leader of the National Party and all the rest of it. So I think he's probably taken the safe path, and that path is staying the state member for his local electorate, which is nearby to Eden-Monaro, and continuing there. And Constance has come from nowhere to be now, I guess, the candidate and also the winner of the by-election. So I don't think the local government mayor can get anywhere near him. I know she's popular in her own area, but she is beholden to the Greens in many ways in respects of what happens down there, according to my listeners in the area. So I think Constance will win, and it's probably one of the strangest things happening. But it is a strange time, Laura, with the coronavirus and the like. So we're used to strange things over the last couple of